Okay, so we are recording. We also have the chat enabled, so you can put your questions in the chat if you like. And we also have the captions enabled. If you need them, you can certainly enable them for yourself. Welcome, welcome to our October session of the accelerators. I'm so happy to have you all here. If this is the first time you're here, I'm going to put up a poll. And I would like to see if this poll works. I'm going to launch this poll. And so I need everyone to, if you see the poll, to answer the question. If this is your first accelerator call, please hit the yes. If you've attended other accelerator calls, hit the no. I want to see what percentage of our group is new and which percentage is returning. And we're almost a tie even. Wow. I'll give you another second or so. Okay, we have, wow. I'm going to end the poll. That's cool. All right, so the poll works. Excellent.
Nice.
And I can share my results. Look at this. We have an even split. Let me see if, can you see the results now?
Yes.
Can everyone see this? So we have 25 people on the call so far. I'm assuming more will come on. And 48% are brand new, welcome. And 52% have come before. That is great. And I know that we'll get more people. We had over 107 people who, oops, I want to stop sharing my results. Go back. We had over 107 people who registered for this event. So I'm assuming we're going to get a lot more. Oh, I see my friend Linda Brubaker is on the call. Welcome, Linda. How are you today?
Good, thanks.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so for those of you who are new, I would like to share with you just a little bit about this accelerator group. It was early 2020, and if you all remember where we all were when they announced, hello world, we're in a pandemic, and that's where we were. It was probably about in March, and small group of people, including Christine Grogan, got together to create this community, which was here to just help support job seekers. We just wanted to be a supportive community where people could come, learn and grow and network with lots of other people. And we have grown so fast. We are now well over 500. I think it's 548 or some number. You are all welcome to join the accelerator group. And I have been honored to be the designated career coach since the inception of the accelerators. And it's been just such a joy. I've helped so many people with their resumes and LinkedIn profile support and interview prep, everything that we can do to help support you on your job search. So if you're not yet a member, please join. Lori has put the link in the chat to join the accelerator group. We are a private community, so I need to accept you to come in, but everyone who's on the call today will be accepted. And also, if you have not yet put your LinkedIn URL into the chat and just tell us briefly what kind of job you're looking for, that would be amazing, because you never know who's going to be on this call that might know somebody who knows somebody that could get you to your next opportunity. So definitely take this opportunity to put your information into the chat with your LinkedIn URL. If you're interested in a specific location, tell us where you're coming from and also what type of job you're looking for. That would be great. Also, for those of you who are new, we do record these sessions and we post every one of them on my YouTube link, probably by tomorrow or Friday. Hopefully that link will be ready. I will put that out when I post. And so you will get to review this again. If you want, if you miss anything, you're certainly welcome to check out that post and the video. I always schedule several months in advance. And so I want to tell you about our November 1st session, which is my good friend Sue Griffey, who many of you know from Brenda Meller's calls. Sue is going to talk about how to excavate your evidence. And I know every time I help somebody with their resume, I ask them, can you please send me some data to support all of your accomplishments. And so often I hear, but I don't have any sales numbers, or I don't know what the product counts were in my particular company. And so Sue is coming on to tell us how those of us who are not in sales, who don't have quotas necessarily, but do need to show, not just tell what you've done, but show what you've done. She's going to show us how to excavate that evidence. So be sure to join us next month. Again, it's November 1st. That link is up and available, and you're welcome to come on and learn a little bit with Sue and me next month. Okay, before I introduce Janine, I just want to tell you one more thing that is really important about the Accelerator group. We are all about learning and sharing. And so I asked you during our call to think about important things that you're going to hear Janine talk about. And if they're important to you, I want you to jot them down in the chat for two reasons. Number one, when you write something down, it reinforces it in your brain. So anything that you feel is important to you will become more reinforced if you write it down somewhere. And number two, because we want to expand the community and we want everyone to learn and grow with us, I'm going to take all those golden nuggets that you post in there, and I'm going to create a post sometime this week, hopefully, to share with people who were not able to attend or perhaps won't be able to get to the video. So we want to learn and grow and share with other people. And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot from Janine today about things that maybe are interesting to us, maybe something that will pique a certain emotion or pique a certain interest level for you to learn and grow with us. You know, when I am always surprised at how many of my really smart, accomplished, and skilled clients feel that they cannot or incapable of accomplishing the goals that we set. That always surprises me. And so I was especially intrigued when Janine said to me that she has this presentation about imposter syndrome, and she offered to talk to the group about it. And I said, yeah, I experience this all the time with people who feel like they really can't go for that next level job because they've always been in this particular job. And that, you know, there's a lot of things about imposter syndrome we're going to learn today that I have learned since I started talking to Janine about this, that may impact you at one point or another in your career. Janine is the founder of Choice Training and Coaching Solutions. She's based in New York. That's how we know each other for many, many years. I can't remember when we met, but we know each other from when I lived in New York. And her mission is to inspire and empower individuals to lead their best lives. She's going to dig into the imposter syndrome and how it can impact not only your job search, which a lot of you are on job search right now, but your lives for sure. So I'm going to ask you all to mute yourselves so that we can let Janine have the floor. And we're going to, let's see if we can get Janine. How can I get Janine highlighted? There she is. Yes, Janine, you want to say hi to the group, Janine?
Hello, everyone.
So great to have you here and so looking forward to this presentation.
Thank you, Mindy. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to spending this time with your group. Before I even jump into talking about what we have planned for, or what I have planned for the next half hour or so, I'm going to begin by reading a list of names to you all. And I'm going to ask you to let me know at the end what you think they all have in common. And Mindy and her team can help me because I see now that I'm sharing, I don't see the chat anymore. So Mindy, I'll leave that up to you and your group, but okay. I'm going to read off a list and you let me know what they have in common. Sheryl Sandberg, Michelle Obama, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, Albert Einstein, Tom Hanks, Jacinda Ardern, Tina Fey, Serena Williams, Kate Winslet, Maya Angelou, David Bowie, Ryan Reynolds, Natalie Portman, Lady Gaga. Does anybody want to take a guess at what they all have in common? I guess you could put it in the chat, or you could come off mute if you want to share. What does that list, and it's a condensed list, but what is that list of people, what might they have in common?
We're all told no, or told they can't do what they want to do.
It's a good guess, but that's actually it's possible, but that's not the one that I'm going for. But thank you for sharing, Cheryl.
Jeff, these are just coming up in my chat now. Jeff and Tamara both said they all had imposter syndrome.
Okay, and that's the right answer. Yes, all of these highly successful people, I tried to sort of highlight different areas and industries, and all of them have said that they have suffered from imposter syndrome at one time in their careers. So studies have even shown that it could be anywhere from 80 to 90% of the workplace has experienced the feelings of imposter syndrome at some time in their careers. And it impacts very highly successful people, which is why I wanted to bring it to this group of very highly successful people. And in fact, it's so common that they're actually thinking of removing the syndrome piece because it's just something that so many people experience. And it comes up at different times, but it can really rear its head during a job search or if we've recently lost a job. So I'm excited to share some information on this with you today. I do want to let you know that I could spend the remainder of the time reading names. That's how many people and how many successful people are impacted by that. So I want to thank you again for joining me. Again, my name is Janine Friedman, and I'm a professional certified coach and a corporate trainer. And I have spent my 26-year career helping people be successful in the workplace and find more happiness in their lives through customized coaching and training. And yes, my company name is Choice Training and Coaching Solutions. That's why I have this little banner hanging in my office. You'll see it behind my head, just so you know what it is. A huge chunk of the work I do in coaching revolves around helping my clients move confidently past imposter syndrome and self-doubt so that they can achieve their goals. And I am excited to share some of the things that have worked with my clients with this group today. So before we even move a little further, I'm going to ask you all to take a moment to mindfully become more present as we're spending this time together. So if it's available to you, maybe shut your phone down or put it on do not disturb. You can think about Xing out of your notifications if you're joining us through your laptop or your computer. Anything that you could do to limit distractions will really help you take more away. As Mindy said, this is for you and we want you to get the most out of it. So limiting those distractions can be helpful. I would also encourage you to maybe uncross anything that's crossed or even do some shoulder rolls just to relax your body a little bit and allow your mind and your body to kind of come to the same place. Feel your feet on the floor. Maybe just allow it to center yourself and remind yourself to be present for the remaining time that we have together. I promise you, your to-do list and all those calls you have to make and those emails you have to do, they'll be waiting for you after. But the more that you can bring your full attention to the program, the more you'll be able to take away. You may want to even take in a couple of deep breaths. In and out. And just hold that intention of being present as we go on with the program today. So the program's going to run. I'm going to talk about 30 minutes or so, and Mindy, hopefully you can keep me on time with the timing, because sometimes I can get carried away. But I do move kind of quickly. This sometimes can be a longer program, so I do want to let you know if we move quickly through something and you want to continue the dialogue, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I love to continue talking about this topic. Another great idea might be, well, maybe you'll reach out to somebody within the group that you want to get to know better and, make a follow-up meeting to hold each other accountable and talk about what you learned in the program. That's always a good way to reinforce the learning. I do want to let you know that I welcome and encourage your comments. The more that you share, the more everybody else will take away. And chances are somebody else in one of the boxes is having the same exact question that you're having or could benefit from something that you've experienced that you want to share. So please, I welcome that, whether you use the chat or if you need to come off mute to share something. I love when, there's so much experience on this Zoom. So I love when everybody has the opportunity to learn from one another. And then I love when I can bring that and share that with my next group. So please, don't hesitate to jump in if you have a question or a comment. I also want to let you know that sitting with me for the next half hour, 40 minutes or so is not going to help you overcome imposter syndrome. I'm just going to repeat that. Sitting here in this program is not going to help you overcome imposter syndrome. However, going back to your day-to-day, going back to your work life and doing something differently will. So that is the idea that I'd like you to hold in mind as we go through this program. And I'm actually going to ask you about it towards the end. So, and we may even take advantage of what Mindy said and take some time to even jot down one thing you're going to be doing differently as a result of what you learned today. Okay, so let me move my slide. Okay, so here's what we have planned. We are going to take a look at imposter syndrome, what it is, and how it might be impacting our careers. We're going to look at some simple and pretty easy tips that we can implement that'll help us overcome it. We're actually going to do an empowerment exercise, and then we're going to leave time at the end for discussion, any questions you might have, and to do that action planning that we talked about. So let's move on. So has anybody ever felt like this after an interview or after an important meeting? It's, you know, it's a big thing when there's memes out there, but this whole idea of just, you know, actually I'll switch over to the definition so we could look at it. So we need to know what we're talking about. And so this is kind of some of the definitions of imposter syndrome. It's really not believing that we're as competent as we actually are or as others perceive us to be. And it's oftentimes accompanied by feelings of being found out as a phony or a fraud. It surfaces at certain times in our careers. A lot of times it surfaces at times of success, but it also surfaces at times of stress, when we are taking on a new challenge, definitely when we're going through a job search, if we've lost a job, when we're in an interview, when we are coming back from maybe leave. The pandemic definitely brought on bouts of this. I had a client who was a leader in a not-for-profit for 20 years, but with the pandemic and all the stress that came with that, for her, it really just set her back in terms of feeling more like a fraud and questioning her own abilities, which she knew she had. So the fear of discovery is also a big piece of this. So we do see that people tend to feel like, oh, the interviewer is going to feel, you know, find out that I'm a fraud or a phony, or my boss or my colleagues or even my friends are going to find this out about me. So that has that kind of piece to it, which is why it's called imposter syndrome. Does any of that resonate? Okay, I see some heads nodding on my end. Okay, all right. So yeah, it seems like it does resonate for a lot of people. I do find that when I offer this program, a lot of people want to sign up. It is something that's people are recognizing that they're being impacted by. And then there are other situations where people, and some of the feedback I got from the group was that some weren't even aware of what it was. So we just want to make sure that we know what we're talking about as we move through this program, because we can't address what we're not aware of. So that's always an important piece of it. All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide and ask to hear from you. And you could share in the chat, and Mindy, if you be help and read some of the comments, since I can't see them. But what are some of your thoughts on how the imposter syndrome might impact your careers?
Do you want us typing or talking?
Either one works for me. You could talk since you're there. I can't see you, but I hear you. Do you want to share?
All right, we have one in the chat. This is
Okay.
Cheryl.
I can
Sorry.
share. Anyway, so I would say there's quite a few jobs that I didn't apply for because of the imposter syndrome, or maybe thinking, well, I don't know if they perceive me as being able to do this job or what have you. And so that's how it's affected me. So sometimes you weren't maybe not have been as quick to jump on a job that maybe I should have.
Okay, Joe, thank you for sharing that. That is a huge one, because we don't want to self-reject, right? And sometimes when we have imposter syndrome, we can do just that. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's a great example.
Gregory Talman had a good one. Gregory, do you want to speak, or do you want me to read your chat?
Sure. So I was going to say that if you go into an interview and you already think you maybe aren't qualified for it, right, that's going to impact how you come across in terms of your confidence, in terms of your speech, right? Maybe even how clearly you articulate yourself, right? You might be more nervous.
100%. Definitely. It affects how you come across in that important interview. And it can be picked up by others. Yeah. Thank you, Gregory. Great one.
Steve Biondi also had something he wanted to add.
Well, it's echoing what Greg had said, right? You have to have self-confidence. That's what hiring managers look for, right? If you don't go in there believing you can do the role, you got to check, you got a red flag before you can start, right?
Yeah, yeah, they pick up on that. That energy level is so important in an interview. So yeah, so the job search process, it also can impact your ability to ask for the salary that you want and deserve. It can impact your ability on the job, if you already are in a position, to throw your hat in the ring for a promotion. It can impact your ability to step into your role as a leader. It can, if you're self-employed, it could affect your rates that you're charging, and it can really bring a lot of things down. Of course, it can impact self-worth, which we talked about, but it can impact your income, causing us to undercharge that. That's, could be a big challenge as well. Also, I find that because sometimes people feel that to overcome it, they need to be perfect or work harder than anybody else, that burnout also can be a result of imposter syndrome, which we know can really take a toll on people and impact them in their careers as well as their lives. So, and it could also take away our enjoyment at work, even our enjoyment of the interview process. And it could also take away our ability to achieve peak performance. So I am also certified to help people get into a state of peak performance by entering a flow state, and we can't get into that state if we're feeling this imposter syndrome or self-doubt. So lots of different ways that it can impact our careers.
We have a few more
Okay.
comments. Cheryl, do you want to take the opportunity to unmute to talk about yours?
Part of what we've said before, again, you don't take those risks or opportunities. And even when they've been presented to you, you think, oh, I can't do that. So and I like to think that I take calculated risks, but I also recognize that I've been pulling back from some of those risks that I take. So.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And like I said, it's important to take the time to recognize it. So recognizing and having that awareness is really the first step in overcoming it. So that's, that was kind of by design, that first piece of it, just to bring it to our conscious level that this may be impacting us more than we realize. So thank you.
And from Linda, she's saying not seeing that success was deserved or as good as what others may have accomplished.
Okay. Yeah. So even like we said, at moments of success, it can take away your joy and pride and accomplishments that you've achieved through your efforts and your abilities.
Mm-hmm. Here's one from Michelle: being in one career for a long time and then transferring to something new and, moving out of your comfort zone, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So great examples. And you may think of others as we go through. Be happy to jump, feel free to jump in. But yeah, as we can see, it impacts a lot of factors and all of these things that come together to impact our career. So the more that we're aware of it, the more that we can recognize it. And that second half of the program is going to be giving you some tips on what we can do about it. So just as one last slide, I thank those few that were able to do my pre-presentation survey. It asked some questions to just help get an idea of how the group is experiencing it. And the questions in there are actually some of the warning signs that you might be experiencing imposter syndrome. So these are those signs: agonizing over even the smallest mistakes, attributing your success to outside factors, feeling like you have to work harder than everyone else. I might put under this feeling like you have to respond to every single email, even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, downplaying your expertise, worrying that you will inevitably be found out as a phony, and perfectionism. I might add learning more and more and obtaining more and more degrees and certifications to feel qualified when you already are. And again, we do see that the most successful individuals are the ones that suffer from this. And I'm going to share a quick survey. We had a small group, but we did have 6 people respond to this question. And so as you can see, a big one, and I see this often ranks at the top of the survey when I ask groups, is that agonizing over even the smallest mistakes comes up a lot. That ties also into perfectionism. But as you can see, for the most part, if this group is any representation of the larger group, people are experiencing it in some way, shape, or form. Does anybody want to share one of these factors that might be impacting them right now?
Yes, I will share. Can you guys hear me?
I
Yeah.
hear you.
Okay. The one about feeling like you have to work harder than everyone else resonates with me. I left my previous job because I ended up working pretty much like 24/7 because continuously responsibilities kept being added to my job, and I kept taking them because I felt that was the right thing to do, never saying no. And I got to a point of burnout. So I said, okay, I'm leaving this. I completely left the IT field. I went to a more of a client facing role. And I thought, this is going to be good because it's not going to be the extreme chaos of that IT tends to be. And 2 years later, I found myself in the same situation where I have a number of responsibilities have been added. I started seeing the trend again of working harder than everyone else, working 16-hour days. And I'm taking a step back and saying, okay, wherever you go, there you are. I'm going to continue to do this no matter what career shift I do, because it seems to be my problem, not the problem. I am the one who needs to set those boundaries. And I think this is the first time that I correlate that
Okay.
to the topic we're talking about.
That is an excellent example. I'm glad you're realizing it. 16 hours a day, year after year, can really do major damage to your health. And the fact that you recognize you're in burnout is really important. And, it's sometimes, people have asked, what's the difference between low self-confidence and imposter syndrome? So low confidence is usually around a task or what it is, but imposter syndrome is about who you are. So what you're talking about when you say wherever you go, there you are, really talks about who you are as a person. And sometimes you have to dig a little bit deeper to figure out what is it that's preventing you from setting those boundaries, and how can you be stronger at that. But it sounds like you're on the right path with that you have that most important recognition, and then, taking some steps to step back and see what you can do differently so that you don't spend the rest of your life in that state, because it's dangerous. I've seen it. I've worked in an employee assistance program, and I've seen the toll it could take. And that's why we're also seeing this, this great resignation, because people are recognizing, especially after the pandemic, life is too short to be burnt out all the time. People want more from their lives. They want the opportunity to have the balance and live their values and still do a good job, but just not 16 to 20 hours a day. All right. Thank you for sharing that. All right. I'm going to move on. So for the next portion of the program, we're going to take some time taking a look at a couple of strategies for overcoming imposter syndrome. And, we chose these. I have a longer list, but we chose these because we thought these would resonate with the group, and it'll give us an opportunity to do some exercises around that. What I have found in my 26 years of helping people be successful in the workplace is that oftentimes the smallest changes have the biggest impact. So keep that in mind as you're going through this program as well. So we're going to talk about knowing your superpowers, how you can develop a growth mindset and how important that is, and harnessing the power of the power pose, which I know is also a favorite. It's a favorite of mine, and it's also a favorite of Mindy's. So, all right, so let's move on to that next slide. So sometimes just shifting your thoughts to what you're good at, what your strengths are, can change your whole energy level for that interview. Sometimes I always share with people that we can't hold two thoughts at the same time. So a good way to take some of those thoughts of self-doubt or maybe imposter syndrome out of the picture is to proactively think about what we're really good at, what our strengths are. So I run this program. It's a separate program called #IamRemarkable. I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but it actually was a program put together to help people get stronger at talking about their strengths, develop that muscle of being more comfortable talking about their strengths. Sometimes we're socialized at a young age to be humble, that it's not okay to talk about these things. But as you know, in a job search and within your career, it's really important that you get comfortable talking about your strengths because you know them best. And when it comes to those interviews, those all important meetings, it's important that you're able to get those strengths across. So I actually take some time in my programs, and actually I provide this list here as just something to kind of get the creative juices flowing, to give you some ideas. But I just wanted to take a couple of seconds here to do this little exercise and ask you to either jot down your superpowers or share them in the chat. And we can discuss a little bit about that. And I can share what mine are, so I've done this before, just to give you some other ideas. Some of my strengths include my ability to stay fully present and focused with my clients, listening. And then I learned one from my feedback forms from a different program that I was running, and which I've also shared in the chat, which at the end, I'd love it if you could share your thoughts on the program. But somebody had shared that I have a knack for helping people feel comfortable speaking up in presentations. So that was one I never knew, and it was great to have some impact and some information from outside people to let me know about that one. So let's see how you do with coming up with a couple of strengths of yours, a couple of your superpowers. You can write them down, and then whoever feels up to it, share in the chat, and maybe a couple can come off mute and share with us what theirs are.
I see from Anthony, collaborative, empathetic, patient, and persistent. Thank you, Anthony.
Nice.
Nice strengths.
Great.
Yeah. Passionate, persistent, responsible, and dependable from Norma.
Nice.
I think as you go through this, it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, right? Saying things that they're good at. What I've found is if you put it in categories, like some of the points in the chat here, how do you treat other people? Are you empathetic? Do you help them with their goals? Are you mindful and self-aware? And then what are the things that you're good at work-wise? I'm analytical. I'm attention to detail. That kind of helps you kind of put together your core strengths list, I think.
Yeah, good point. And that hashtag that program and even this exercise is to help people feel more comfortable about it, because it's just like anything else. It's like a muscle. The more that we do it, the more comfortable we can become. So if you don't feel comfortable with this group, maybe you do it with, just an accountability partner, and you talk to them about it, or somebody that you're close with. Maybe you practice it in the mirror, maybe even just videotape yourself or record your voice as you're doing it. But the more that you say these things, the more comfortable it becomes, just like anything else. But those are great points. Putting them into categories can be helpful as well.
Here's some more coming in. Stephanie is intuitive, empathetic, lifelong learner, and inquisitive.
Love it. Nice.
Who is this above? Hold on, I have to scroll up a bit. Can't see the top of this. Hold on. Detail-oriented. Clear thinker, empathetic, team building, and detail-oriented is Joe.
Awesome.
Another one in. Dora, brave, caring, compassionate, empathetic, patient leader.
Nice. All right. So I see everybody's starting to get the hang of it. If this was a challenge for you, that's something you might want to, think about after this talk, and maybe look into that a little bit. And also, you might even want to phone a friend. If you couldn't come up with anything, sometimes it's helpful to ask people in your life, whether somebody at work or somebody in your personal life. Sometimes our strengths are so natural to us that we don't even realize that they're strengths. So like the example I shared about allowing people, making people feel comfortable to speak up in presentations. I wasn't aware of that, but somebody else had brought that to my attention. So sometimes, like I said, it's just something that comes so naturally, you don't realize it's a strength. So you may even want to look at your past evaluations and, performance reviews or different feedback that you've gotten from other people to help you kind of jog that memory and recognize what some of those strengths are. So again, writing it down will help you remember. Yes. Was there a question?
What you said is excellent advice. Because I get what you're trying to.
Uh-oh. Virginia, you went on mute.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Not many people feel comfortable talking about themselves. I don't either. But I had an interview recently, and it often takes your ability to look at your past huge successes before you go into an interview and put that in the forefront of your brain. So when you're speaking to people, you're actually recounting some of the great things that you've done that you really kind of discounted or kind of pushed aside because it was in the past and you've forgotten it now because you're moving on to the next. But if you do that and you ask some people what they think about you, and you recount what things that people have said to you in business and use that and play that over in your mind, that will get you through your interview, meaning you will come across more professional. You will come across all these qualities that they're looking for. You can bring those to the table and show examples of previous successes, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for
You
sharing
know?
that. And yeah, one of the other tips that I do share in my longer programs is the idea of creating your highlight reel, your own highlight reel. What does your success folder look like? Can you put past testimonials in there, performance reviews, different emails that you've gotten of gratitude, and then check into that, whether it's digital or a hard copy, check into that, read it before, when you need to pick me up, especially at an important time like interviewing. Great. Thank you for sharing that, Virginia. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the next one so we could get to them all. So this next one is the concept of developing a growth mindset. So imposter syndrome can cause us to fear making mistakes. And what the growth mindset does is it allows us to flip it so that we can use our mistakes as learning opportunities. We can use our emotional intelligence to recognize they are our greatest potential for growth. So there is a book, I believe the title is Mindset by Carol Dweck. I have it in the sources of this program, so I can share that if anybody's interested. But she has a book that talks about this whole concept. And what she said is that if we can flip it and do just that and recognize that these mistakes are part of being human and they are our biggest opportunity for growth and development and learning, that can shift everything for us. And I do feel like this is an important one because time and time again, I get that answer that people, they do beat themselves up over sometimes the smallest mistakes, which then causes them to flip into perfectionist mode, which then to do that oftentimes causes them to work those long hours and then can create burnout. So a fixed mindset says I can't do it, and a growth mindset says I can't do it yet. And which one of these two mindsets you choose can have a huge impact on the overall quality of your life and the impact on your career as well. So very important to think about this and recognize if you are falling into that fixed mindset, what can you do to open up a little bit to this idea of mistakes are where you can learn and that we're always learning. I heard, somebody mentioned before, they're a lifelong learner. So they probably learn the most from some of the mistakes that they've experienced. That's how we actually get our wisdom. That's how we build our resumes. If you think back on your career, probably the times where you learn the most were times where things didn't go as well. So if we can embrace that idea, that's a big piece of emotional intelligence and learn from that and grow from that. So I have an example of how mindset impacted a client of mine who was interviewing for jobs, and I couldn't, I couldn't get her to commit to, she had a great background, leadership experience, was a great candidate. I couldn't get her to commit to sending more than 1 or 2 resumes out a week. And finally, we dug a little bit deeper and we recognized that she was kind of ruling herself out. She felt she needed to have 100% of all the requirements of every job before she could apply. And then I explained there were some studies that sometimes women fall more prey to the perfectionism idea, and where there is a study that shows that women sometimes will oftentimes only apply for a job if they have 10 out of 10 of the requirements, whereas men sometimes will apply for a job if they have 6 out of the 10 requirements and apply their growth mindset, meaning letting them know that, they have a growth mindset, they're a quick learner, and they can learn as they go. So once we shifted her mindset with that client, she sent much more resumes out and she was able to land that job that she wanted. So we want to make sure that, we think about this. It's also the kind of mindset that champions have in the field of sport, this idea of learning from mistakes. Does anybody have any feedback or thoughts on that one? or any experience with
Hi,
it?
this is Michelle. I can so relate to what you just said. I look at these, the whatever, the job descriptions, and I sit there and I have it written down, and I'll pick out one or two things of the whole thing I can't do, and like, oh, I can't do that. So it's self-sabotage before even putting
Okay.
something out there into
All right,
the
Michelle, thank you for
world.
sharing
So
that.
yes, yeah,
All right, so what are you going to do differently next time now that you know about the growth mindset?
just do it.
Okay. Yeah, remind
Put it
yourself
out
of
there.
those times when you learn new things and that you're capable of doing that. And,
And also, I think part of it is a wish list. I think the employers or the HR, whoever, puts out a bunch of things that they would like to have. It doesn't mean they're going to have the whole package in one. And you can also develop things as you go along. So
exactly. So you let that, you don't want to be the one that rejects yourself, right? So you want
Correct.
to just, put yourself out there and some, sometimes it is a numbers game. So the more that you can get those out there, the better the opportunity. So
Yeah.
implementing that growth
Thank you for
mindset
bringing that
goes a
up.
long way. You're welcome.
Janine, I'm just going to jump in there to tell Michelle that rule of thumb is in any job description, no employer assumes you have 100% of the things that they're asking for. They just don't. And so if you have even 7 of the 10, let's say there's 10 skills that they're looking for, you're good. Go for it, for sure.
Okay.
Don't assume if you don't have all 10 that you're not going to be a good candidate. No one assumes that you have all of them. They want people who are going to grow in their jobs. If you have everything, then you're probably overqualified. So don't don't wait for that opportunity before you make an application.
All right. Great points. Thanks, Mindy.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm gonna move on. Oh, was there another?
Just quick, a quick example of an experience that I went through with that. In the past, I've seen like internal job, I guess opportunities that I have held back from applying because I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm good enough for this. And then I see other people with similar qualifications, or maybe not all the qualifications, apply and get the job. And I'm like, oh, I could have gotten that job if I had been brave enough to go and, interview for it. I had all the same qualifications. The only thing that went wrong was my mindset, not
Okay.
making myself apply for that job.
All right. So how can you apply your growth mindset for going forward?
Just next time, go for it. That's
Yeah.
the only difference between those applicants and myself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that really important example. Thank you. All right. I'm going to move on to the next one. Okay. So have you ever gone through an interview and maybe the nerves kick in as they do, and because of it, you kind of left the interview, and on your way home or on your way, off the Zoom or whatever, all of a sudden you start to remember 3 things that you should have said during that interview. Has anybody had that experience? I'll assume yes.
Yes.
So that is it's called staircase wit. This idea of, back in the day, we'd be walking down the staircase out of the interview and remember all these things. The reason that happens is because we are kind of hijacked by our amygdala. We're in a stress situation where we are in fight or flight. And because of that, our prefrontal cortex kind of shuts down and the thinking part of our brain goes offline. So we want to be able to do some things to set ourselves up so that we can be as calm as we can, and so that we can bring that presence that we need to be able to answer those questions without having that hijack. So going to be talking about the power pose, which many of you have probably heard of in the past. I know it's in a lot of TV shows. I know Mindy's a big believer in it as well. I am going to actually ask everybody, if it's available to you, if you would stand up right now and actually join me in doing a power pose, just like our Fearless Girl statue. I'm from New York, so she's in downtown New York. So I love to share that picture, but just standing with our shoulders back, our head up high, a straight spine, feet wide. Science actually shows that our body language tells our brain how to feel in terms of confidence, and not the other way around. We are such so cerebral. We always think everything starts from the brain, but the truth is they've actually found that it's our body language that is giving us that message to be confident. So you can all sit whenever you want to. I'll talk a little bit more about this. But when we make our body small, we're giving our brains the message that we're not feeling confident. And, some of us have been socialized to be a little bit smaller, to not take up a lot of space. I don't have it with me, but a lot of us, when we are on our iPhones, and this happens a lot to the younger generations, if they're doing all their work on their phones, it's called an eye hunch. And if you could see my shoulders, they're hunching. I am inadvertently becoming small, and my brain is going to get the message that I'm not confident. So we need to sort of work to override that. Even if we're typing, sometimes we can hunch our shoulders and make ourselves small. If you think about, when we're crossing things, we're just making ourselves small, giving our brain that message that we're not confident. So we have to be mindful of it at important times, especially before an interview. So Amy Cuddy has a TED Talk on this. It's one of the most watched TED Talks that are out there, and her book is called Presence. And it's this whole idea of doing this power pose. She says it only takes 2 minutes of your time. Stand like that for 2 minutes, or even if you wanted to go like this, people will do this like in that picture. That was a group of tech women that I was talking with. But if you think about when anybody wins a race or wins a game or a championship, they're always going like this. So that's just that confidence stance where we're making ourselves feel bigger. So I always encourage people to take the time to do this before an interview or an important meeting. I have some people that are imposter syndrome is causing them to not speak up in meetings. And so we're working there. And you do it kind of before you leave the house in the morning or before you jump onto the Zoom in a private space. And it can really have a big impact. I see that Gregory has raised his hand. Did you want to share something?
Oh yeah, just kind of in that same vein, right? Putting yourself into a good mindset there of strength. Something simple I've done is, I adjust my chair so I can't recline as much, right? It's like 2 little clicks, and then I'm purposely, I can't accidentally slouch during the call, right? It keeps my back straight.
There you go. Yeah. And if, even if, the power pose isn't something great, you might want to even do mountain pose, because if any of you are doing yoga, that's just kind of the same idea, but you're putting your hands out to the side. Just making yourself big and sturdy and confident can really go a long way. It doesn't just have to be before interviews. You can also think about doing that at important conversations or negotiations. It can really go a long way. And I use it as well as a lot of my clients. And sometimes I'll have clients who actually, I do this too, they'll pump up like a psych song to listen to as they're standing like that. So I encourage you to, play around with it and think about trying this before your next interview. Anybody have any questions on that one? Okay. So I think I'm okay on time. It's giving us a little time to chat at the end, but just to review what we talked about, the tips I've shared today are knowing your superpowers, developing that all important growth mindset, and harnessing the power of the power pose. So I just wanted to ask the group before we move on to some action planning, does anybody want to share any takeaways or maybe, as Mindy calls them, golden nuggets, or anything that surprised you from the talk today?
I'd like to throw in that, the power pose is great, but also like when I interview, a lot of times I'll stand up, and that way it's more of more confidence when you can stand.
Definitely.
I have to put boxes under my laptop to make sure the camera is right. And you want to make sure you're looking at just how you look the best. You want to arrange all that before the interview, give yourself time. And standing up, it's just, I feel more confident doing it that way. And so
great suggestion. I'm doing it right now. I have a stand-up desk, and then I also bought one of those, you get them on Amazon for $10, that extender to raise your keypad. I did have to get new glasses when I started using the stand-up desk because of the different distances. But yeah, standing up can really go a long way. You're making yourself bigger that way. So thank you.
I think it's also important that you dress for it, right? Your first interviews, especially on LinkedIn interviews, it'll be video, and maybe even some of the subsequent ones. And this might be an old school thinking, but wear a jacket, look presentable. You get power from what you wear as well, right? So you have to portray the kind of confidence you're going to articulate in that conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I know during the pandemic, I had you know, a lot of people were working from home, and, you know, I had encouraged people to kind of get up and get ready like you would normally go to work. So yeah, great suggestion. Thank you, Steve.
Janine, we're running up to the end of the hour. We have like 5 minutes left.
Okay, thank
So
you.
if we could, can we reduce the PowerPoint so that we can see everyone and give everyone an opportunity to speak if they'd like?
Yeah, can I do one last slide before we do that?
Sure.
Okay, this is the one that ties into what Mindy was saying. If we write it down, we're 43% more likely to actually carry out this action. So I wanted to just ask the group to take a minute to write down. They could share it in the chat or just jot it down anywhere. Just one action they're going to take that they're going to do differently based on what we talked about today in the program. Okay, now I will stop. Should I stop the share, Mindy?
Yeah, let's just, you have another slide that you want to show?
Oh yeah, I did have my contact information. So I did want to say that there is a big difference between theory and practice, and knowing these things and actually carrying them out. And so I do offer a free 45-minute coaching consultation to anybody who's interested that might want to learn how coaching might help them stick to their plan and stick to their goals around making changes around this, or helping them overcome imposter syndrome. So this is how you can reach me. I also shared it in the chat. But most successful people in most fields have recognized that the help of a coach can really help them get unstuck and unblock some of the things that might be holding them back. So I make that offer to everybody on this call today. And then last, I just wanted to say thank you all for your participation. It was really nice being here. Okay, so stop the share, Mindy.
Yes, that would be
Okay.
great. We can see everyone.
Okay.
See if we can see everyone. Janine, thank you. That was amazing. And I think a lot of people just need to hear it sometimes. I know that for myself, I find that curiosity is a huge and wonderful skill that I encourage leaders to embrace. We sometimes say that curiosity is more for young people, but the truth is that curious leaders really engage their team members a lot better. And if you're curious, you're always in a growth mindset. You're always, and I see people shaking their heads, you're always looking for something new and something to learn. And that's what I love to think about, and I love to share with everyone. Just let your curiosity lead.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
I'm going to share a crazy one with y'all. I had an interview recently, and I was so comfortable in that interview. I don't know why, probably because I was pumping myself full of all my accomplishments before I walked in. I wasn't going to be intimidated, even though it was kind of an intimidating situation. They asked me if I wanted something to drink, and I always decline, even if I'm dying of thirst. But I said, you know what, the heck with it. I'll have a cup of coffee, please. And I'll have some cream and sugar. They delivered it to the meeting room, and I was sitting across from the president, the head of HR and finance at a very tight little table. And I took my time, and I put my sugar in, and I put my little creamer in and stirred it around. I had shook their hands before I sat down, but then my coffee was delivered. And I was just as confident as a cucumber, like we're sitting here like old time friends. I didn't shake my hand didn't break. And I think that showed them a level of confidence that I could have a cup of coffee and get that all squared away right in front of them and set it down and then get into the talk. It conveyed a level of confidence in a weird sort of way without saying anything.
Nice.
I don't know whether it was right or wrong, but I felt good doing it. I think it's a good idea if you feel confident that you're not going to turn something over or bump something or look silly doing it. I just had that attitude when I went in that I can't feel shy. I can't feel inadequate. I've done so much in my career, and I've got to project it. I'm speaking to a president, COO of a company. I have to come up to his level now.
Virginia, that's a great example, Virginia. Thanks for sharing that.
It just happened, so I thought I would, because it was kind of crazy that I did that, but I did. And thank God I didn't spill anything, because I am clumsy.
And Virginia, great moment for you to remember the next time you go to another important meeting, that you were able to do that and accomplish that. So keep that in your toolbox in the back of your mind of the things that you do well, and you were able to do that perfectly.
Yeah, and that's what I'm sharing with your group. That's the best advice that was brought forward today is you always have to think, go in there and think about every single successful thing you've done in your career, every single thing. Have that in the front of your brain when you're speaking to these people, and that will give you the confidence to project yourself in that manner. Because they'll know if you're weak. They'll know that right when you open your mouth.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
People, I'm going to launch another poll real quick. Let's see if we can do this. If this is for our feedback, if you feel the session was valuable to you, just please click on the number 1. We have so far 100%. Okay, that's
Great. And speaking of feedback, I shared a link to a survey for just it's a 3-minute survey to get a little more feedback. If you have the time, it's in the beginning of the chat. I'd love to get your thoughts on how I can improve on the program.
excellent. Okay, so Janine, I am sharing the results. Can you guys see that?
Yay!
Yay!
Glad to hear that.
Thank you, everyone. That makes us feel good. And I know the polls work now. This was a great test today. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay, we are just a little bit past the hour. I am so thrilled and honored to be a part of the accelerators and to present these wonderful speakers to you. Janine, today was just an inspiration, and I want you all to remember as you're going through your day that if you don't know something, you don't know something yet. Always have a growth mindset. Always be curious. Always be open to learning and knowing more, and you're going to be on the right path. And the power pose works every time.
Agreed.
That was cool.
A fun one.
I thank you so much, Janine. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And we will see you in November. November 1, I think, is the date. Don't forget to sign up to learn how to excavate your evidence. How are you going to show your evidence that you can accomplish something or have accomplished something to your next employer? If you want to reserve that space, just go to the link that's in the chat. You can save the chat by hitting the 3 little buttons and say save chat. So you can have that. There's lots of great information in there. And I hope to see you all soon. Thank you so much. And have a fabulous, brilliant day.
Great program.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Norma.
Bye.